Why not choke Russia out financially right now as a way to try to stop him?
Well, here's how our national security team looks at sanctions. It's a very good question. I think it's actually a different one than what was asked. Is we look at them for a couple of purposes. One, not that they are going to be an end on their own. Just the announcement of sanctions is not going to have the immediate impact. They're not intended to work that way. They're not intended to max out at the beginning. This is why we've always intended to have a range of sanction steps that we could plus up to or escalate to if his behavior and his actions continue to be escalatory. And also, if we do all the sanctions now, what is the deterrent effect or impact of preventing him to take further action? That is what the conversation we've been in with the global community, and that is how we've been approaching it to date.
The president said in the spring that Pentagon generals had briefed him that the greatest threat facing America is global warming. Is that still the assessment now that we are facing down a potential cyber war with Russia?
Well, let me first say there is no, we are always prepared for any threat that any outside entity or country poses to the United States as it relates to cyber or anything else. There is no current pending threat as it relates to cyber. In terms of the threats you're touching on, that was a briefing from the military, so I'd point you to them.
And so, to follow up on that, the president said before he got here that Putin knows if I am president of the United States, his days of tyranny and trying to intimidate the United States and those in Eastern Europe are over. It's 2.5 years later. He is intimidating the United States and those in Eastern Europe. What happened?
I'd hardly put it that way. So there's a bit of a different tactic, a bit of a different approach, and that's probably why President Biden and not his predecessor was able to rally the world and the global community in taking steps against Russia's aggression. What we want to do is prevent a large-scale invasion, death and destruction across Ukraine, devastation to the Ukrainian people.
Is there a concern that Nord Stream 2, if Russia were to make concessions or retreat in some way, that might open up the door to Nord Stream 2 going back online? Or is it your understanding that it is dead no matter what Russia does?
Well, I would first say that, the president has never been a supporter of Nord Stream 2. We've always criticized it as a project that we didn't support. We took a range of steps and sanctions, including sanctions, to make that very clear. What the announcement made by the German chancellor today was not by accident. It was at the conclusion of a range of diplomatic engagement and efforts by the president and members of our national security team and unity from the Europeans about the fact that this could not move forward. We've never felt, the president didn't feel, that issuing preemptive sanctions on that was the right step to take. But look where we are.
When can we expect a more detailed explanation from the White House about how it would plan to bring down energy prices?
Well, I think as Dilip just conveyed, a lot of what's happening right now is sensitive. It includes conversations with foreign counterparts and other major large global suppliers. It also includes conversations we're continuing to have with Congress and others about what steps may be at our disposal, and the president is continuing to consider options. So I expect we'll have more to tell you when any decisions are made.
You mean specifically Americans should expect higher gasoline prices?
Yeah, energy prices, exactly. That's what we want the American public to be aware is a possibility.